We welcome back in BT Hale. Of course, he is one of the 10 contestants on Jimmy Fallon's new show on Brand. We got to see the premiere earlier this week. You'll get to see episode number 2 this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Former mascot, former cheerleader, a double humper with 2
Hey,
degrees. BT Hale. And BT, we'll start right there with your mascot ties, your mascot days. You were able to get Gaylord the Camel, our mascot, in Campbell University on national TV. Tell me about how all that went down and how happy you are that that got in the show.
oh yeah, go Camels. Let me start there. Yeah, I just man, I was kind of hoping they would. Whenever I saw there was an opportunity to talk about the mascot, I was like, I have to bring up that I was Gaylord the Camel, even though I knew I wasn't going to fit in that mascot outfit because let's say it was either a small or a medium, but it definitely wasn't a large cup. Uh, so I was like, man, I want to bring this up. Hopefully they can bring it in later on. And they did. They reached out. They're like, hey, we really loved your story about being the mascot. Can you get us some footage? So, people that are my friends on Facebook, they probably remember I came in. I was like, hey guys, does anybody happen to have some photos of me whenever I was Gaylord? I didn't tell them why I needed it. Just told them I was kind of like looking for that. And as people were sending stuff in, I kind of remembered a video. A friend of mine, Otis Evans, I gotta give him a shout out because he's the one who took it. He had taken a video of me in Carter Gym one time and dancing. I knew we had that, so that's the video I found. I gave that to them. They got it cleared, and then Gaylord the Camel appeared. Prime time NBC, baby. I was so excited that they, put his name up there and everything because I wasn't sure exactly, how much shine that, the camel was going to get, but I was so stoked because, especially given the fact that, I told you I had that shirt I wore for the podcast last time. I tried to get them to let me wear that on the show, but there was like, oh, we can't really, clear this without talking to your school. But and so that's why I wasn't even sure if the Gaylord stuff was going to come up because they said they couldn't clear that shirt. Um, but then they did. They went through the process to get it cleared, so it worked out. I'm glad. I'm glad. Anytime we can put see you on the national stage, I love to try to do it. We've been having a lot of pro humps lately, so get some TV time for the Camels, baby.
I mean, that's awesome. And what's awesome too is, that was a Gaylord suit that was a couple of generations ago, as far as the mascot suit goes. So it's great.
Mhm.
There were a lot of people that had never seen that Gaylord suit. They're used to the one that's, he's really buff
Right,
and in the right size and that. But that is one of
right.
those classic Gaylord suits. That's what was
Can,
cool about that.
can I tell you about that suit too? The crazy thing about that suit was the neck is obviously that's where you see out of in that suit is the neck, right? And so the camel head was so heavy and up here, and it's strapped down like below between your legs. So there's no like easy getting out of that thing. You have to go to the bathroom. You had to like take the shorts off, take off the whole top piece, right? Well, also because of the structure of it, there was a lot of weight, right? So there came a point where the give in the neck was bending. So every time I would move, I was just constantly getting smacked in the face by this thing because the neck was just, was bent over because of how heavy the head was. So that they definitely improved Gaylord for the person inside of it moving forward by giving them just the headpiece because that thing was tough to walk around in.
Well, that makes it even more impressive that, of course, so many from Campbell Nation were watching you, and the day after your premiere on Wednesday, we have a meeting, and our AD Hannah Bazemore, who you know because
Yeah.
she has been here when you were here, whatever, she said unprompted, she was like, BT is the best Gaylord we have ever had. So still some 20 years later, even you when you were in that monstrous suit, you still have made a impression on our current AD
Uh,
because of everything you have done.
I appreciate that, Hannah. Yeah, it's definitely fun. I definitely think Gaylord is kind of evolved from whenever I was first here, and that's why I kind of told you, in the first podcast we talked about, whenever I stepped in that suit and Will was like, "All right, that's it, you're the mascot for Rick." Because before that moment, I think Gaylord was kind of just like he just walked around, people take pictures. And I think that, it's kind of like, the barrier breakers type thing. I think I was the first one that kind of like stepped in there and just like kind of brought more of an entertainment, value. And then, right after me, it's funny because right after me was my good friend from back home. His name's actually Budweiser Miller. No lie, that's his real name.
Former Campbell
He
football player as well. You can look it up and see
Yeah.
it on the roster. You are not just doing this for entertainment value.
No, I'm not. And so whenever I moved into cheerleading, he stepped in to the mascot outfit and kind of like, because me and him, we kind of had that same, we love to dance, love to be goofy. And so Bud was like, man, I'll take over the mascot since you're moving to cheerleading. And so I think, we kind of like just both of us kind of like set the stage for, Gaylord to become, more than just walk around and I'm gonna take pictures. Gaylord became a entertainment factor at the games.
Well, speaking of an entertainment factor, I mean, I was so entertained by that first episode of On Brand. I cannot imagine what your life has been from that Tuesday night premiere to right now. We're taping this Thursday afternoon to be center stage there on a national TV show hosted by Jimmy Fallon. What has your life been like over the last 48 hours, man?
Man, it has been a whirlwind for sure. And it's so surreal because, you know, being there on the show, filming, everything that's going on, but you still have kind of like this nervousness about what are they going to show? How are they going to cut it up? How are they going to, make you look because you're in the hands of the producers at this point, right? It's that they can make you look however you want, especially whenever you go on there talking about aliens. They could have made me look so crazy. So I was a little nervous about what was going to come, but um, I really enjoyed it. It was cool to be able to watch my little kids. We watched it with them the next morning on Peacock because it was a little bit too late. Um, and just seeing their eyes light up when they saw their dad on TV, and then it was hilarious because my little girl Charlie, she'd just be like, "Daddy!" Every time I appeared on the screen, she'd just yell, "Daddy! There's Daddy!" And so it's really cool and to be able to experience that with my family, and then yeah, like we just right before I hopped on here with you, just wrapped up doing some press interviews. And Jimmy Fallon just followed up the whole cast today on Instagram. Little background. I don't know why he wasn't already following us, golly. But anyways, so that was kind of our cool moment for today. It's like, oh, Jimmy followed us on Instagram. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind. I'm excited that CU Nation got to tune in, see Gaylord get some love, and look forward to the next episode on Friday.
What has been your most, I don't know if random is the word or unexpected. I am sure there is some people that hasn't talked to you since back in college that probably saw you on their screen on NBC. Have you had any sort of encounters like that since?
Oh yeah, I mean, everyone gets excited, when somebody, because we all have busy lives, so I understand. And the nature of social media is you feel like you are still connected with everybody, even though you may not have talked to them or seen them in years, So there's still a little element of like, oh, okay, I still know a little bit about what's going on in their life because I see what they post on social media. But yeah, just it's been cool. It's been cool to see people from, everywhere from my middle school days, high school days, college days, tuning in. And I've been telling people the funniest thing to me about all this is, you know, I shared all this stuff on my social media from NBC, the Today Show, what Kelly and Mark, all these clips from all these huge national, things. And the two things that got commented on or shared the most were when I shared the Fayetteville Observer piece and then the Campbell podcast piece that we did. Those were the two things that the people were like, "Oh my gosh, you made it! You're in our local newspaper. Oh my, you're talking on the Campbell podcast. You made it." That was such a funny thing to me to see. It's like that's how people are. They just get so excited about stuff like that.
Oh
That
my
was
gosh.
really.
See, your local fans from back home in Bowie's Creek, they will never, you'll always be big to them, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, you were telling me about the show, what you could beforehand, and the thing for me, again, a lot of what we do on a very smaller scale is the marketing and the social media and the try to figure out ways to get people to buy the products and come to Campbell games and that this contest and this on brand show is on a much bigger level. But when they said, okay, come up with a concept that's going to be $1 million concept, Duncan's new concept, and they said, all right, you got an hour. That blew me away. I mean, I didn't realize the time constraints that were going to be put on you. How do you handle that kind of pressure and were able to put together such an awesome pitch?
But it's definitely fun. It's definitely interesting to get in there cooking up ideas. It is a high tension situation because there's so many things you gotta get into the books. We had to have a box design. We had to have, the pitch that we're gonna do to work on. And so it's definitely a rush. It's a rush like I've never experienced because it's like game day. You kind of go back to like that game day feeling, but not exactly because you're under a different set of lights. But I knew what I wanted to do was think about what is a campaign that's easy for people to understand. You don't want to have to do a lot of having to explain what your campaign is about to people, at least in my mind. Um, and then how can we connect it? So my first thing that I always did was I wanted to look at the brand and their history. So what has made Dunkin' special? What makes them special? What do people that love Dunkin' love about Dunkin'? Like we talked about in the podcast last time, a lot of their home base is that Northeast,
Yeah.
New Englander. As you saw in the show, there's so many people on there like, I grew up going to Dunkin'. I'm like, I mean, I just remember Dunkin', being a donut place, and I don't have this like heart connect to Dunkin' at all. So I think that was a hard part too, because it's so much easier to sell things that you love or you care about or that you so, I think that was hard in the sense that, you know, trying to get connected to a brand that quickly, like someone that's grown up with it their whole lives, loves it. Their families drink it, or eating there. But I wanted to the idea is this: we don't want to just sell to New Englanders, people that already love it. We're trying to expand. So how do we get big? How do we get big? How do we get bold? And to me, the whole galaxy thing just stood out to me. It's like your tagline's already America runs on Dunkin'. So how can we go bigger? So I was like, at first I was kind of like trying to play. Maybe I should do Texas because everybody talks about everything's bigger in Texas, and then, but then I was like, not everybody loves Texas. Like people that live in Texas love Texas, so let's try to go even more outside of the box. Let's go even bigger. So then I was like, well, the world runs on Dunkin'. I was like, but then there's just so much world tension going on too. So I'm like, I don't even know if you want to go there just because it's hard enough. We might be on the brink of World War III any day. So we're just. I was like, all right, I don't want to have to get political. I don't want to have to get stuff involved. So where can we take this where it won't feel like such a real, you know, thing, life on the line campaign? So I was like, let's go to the next level, space. So I'm like, all right, so we could make this galaxy. The galaxy runs on Duncan. I'm like, oh, that could be perfect because people love the idea of aliens. Even if you don't believe in aliens, you've probably seen Men in Black. You might enjoy that show. Even if you don't believe in aliens, you probably taking your kids to see Lilo and Stitch. So I'm like, that's an idea and a concept that people already understand. And I was like, and then because the aliens, there's that traditional "take me to your leader," right? And so I kind of built my tagline "take me to your Duncan" around that, right? And then one of the things they said was they wanted it to be an inclusive, campaign. So one of the things that I did to kind of you know, tag onto that. So I was thinking about the hand motion. The hand motion of normally you see is like this little thing. So I was like, what can we do with that? And so if you notice when I'm doing that, I always make my hand in the shape of a D for sign language. So this is D for sign language for Duncan. So this is kind of like an intentional hand motion of take me to
Wow.
your Duncan. Yeah, so that was like a little nugget I threw in there. And then as I'm researching this, I was like, how can I tie the Galaxy into Duncan? Because that's got to be important. You know, they're very proud of their brand. So how can we tie this in? So I started researching and I found that the first ever UFO sighting in America was credited to being right outside of Boston, Massachusetts, which is literally where Duncan was born, right outside of Boston, Massachusetts. So to me, it felt like a perfect marriage right there. When I found that, I was completely sold. I was like, this is it. This is the campaign. UFOs, the first UFO sighting was right outside of Boston. The first Duncan was right outside of Boston. They can run with that, play with that so easily. They can make a space galaxy themed Super Bowl commercial so easily. I gave them a commercial idea with, the whole. And here's another nugget about that. I don't know if you've seen their Dunkings commercials, but in those they always play on the fact that Ben Affleck is their main guy, but Matt Damon is more famous, or else it would be him, right? And so whenever I'd say that, we were looking for Matt Damon, but we couldn't find him, so we settled for Ben Affleck. That was me kind of playing to what they already do, but I felt like all of that got glazed over because they were thrown off by the fact that I was doing this alien voice, being silly, which to that point was I was actually the first one to pitch. So I had no idea how everyone else's pitches were going to look. So I went out there thinking, hey, this is a show for Jimmy Fallon. They want entertainment. They want to see fun. And so that's why I kind of like took the theatrical aspect of my pitch a little higher. Whereas after I go and everybody else starts going, I'm realizing, oh, wow, no one else is pitching like this. And so I'm like, I'm wondering if I might have done a little bit too much. And looking back, that might be the only thing I would tweak was kind of like the delivery to where the marketing chief marketing people don't like she doesn't get so caught up on the fact about aliens because it's just like they got so wrapped up in the idea of like what about people who don't think aliens are real, and I think that made them miss all these other reasons that I gave them a campaign that could tie into Duncan perfectly.
Yeah, and it's so cool we get to talk to you about that because, we knew that they didn't show you their whole pitch, but really your guys' pitches were 2 to 3 minutes, of course, on the show. They just show about 20 to 25 seconds. So that's awesome to have all that background. You also said, even though I felt stressed out about how quickly you had to put everything together, you talked about and you said you were talking about and texting with your castmates because you guys were watching it in real time like we were, that boy, they really were able to edit and condense it and to put what was a long 48 hours from you guys back to back to back. It really flew by, didn't it?
Yeah, that was it, it was that was the thing that surprised us so much was how fast paced it was, which I think I mean, I guess that's today's world. It's hard to keep people's attention, so you have to just stay moving and grooving. And I think that's probably why the pace of the show is, that fast. I do wish that they would have been able to show more of the pitches and the concepts because, unfortunately, let's call it what it is. Some of the contestants, ideas kind of get glazed over. Like you see maybe like a little snippet of it, and I'm like, man, like it's kind of hard to allow America to make a judgment on which campaigns they like when you cut out so much of what they were saying about their campaigns. That's the only thing I did want to ask you, what did you think about the Munchbox campaign? Did you
I mean,
pick up on
I
that?
I really loved both of those ideas. I love the Duncan decision ball that your group had, and for
Oh
those
yeah.
haven't been able to watch the show yet, that they picked the two best pitches, and then you guys literally picked teams like on the playground, and then so the rest of the contestants that didn't get their pitch picked work as a team together. I really like that concept too because then it was like, okay, you're still working to push this thing off, and I thought both of them were great in different ways.
Yeah, and I thought so I was just talking to in the podcast interview I was doing before this. I was telling them, they're like, what did you find difficult about working in a team? I was like, well, honestly, the hardest part is you go from putting all this time, effort, brain power into your own idea. And then, for me, I was devastated that they, acted like that was one of the worst ideas that they had ever heard. Cause I'm like, man, this is a great. So, in my mind, I'm still so married to this concept of take me to your Duncan, the galaxy runs on Duncan. And now you're telling me I have to, so it's like I had my baby, right? I had my baby. I'm rocking my baby. And you just told me your baby's not good. I need you to come help with this baby. And so you're telling me I got to put my baby down and come. And so that was kind of a tricky part. Even though I love Bianca and, it was cool that I got to be on her team specifically for that one because if you noticed her idea, she had kind of like had that spy theme along with it, and that was her way of taking it outside the box.
Hmm.
And it's funny because you expect that's what they want by coming to the show, but then they were like, no, we don't want you to do that. So it was funny to see how they like eliminated the part of her idea that kind of made it a little bit, more out there. And we're like, focus more on this. So, it was tough to see, okay, maybe they don't want to be as outside the box as what we were
Yeah.
thinking. So that was an interesting part. And yeah, just working with the team after you've been told your idea is not good and you need to focus. That was kind of hard to dial in because even then, I think we only had like 20 minutes of time to like come together, fix what needed to be fixed on her box. And, we had to come up with the, window clings. We had to come up with a plan of
Wow.
action as far as they told us, hey, you each have access to a mascot outfit if you want it. And to kind of give y'all some insight on the mascot outfit. So we were like, of course we want to use the mascot outfit because people love mascots, right? And so we thought it would be a great idea to use the mascot because that would get people wanting to come, to us to engage with them. A little behind the scenes for you guys. We start out, they don't show this, but we start out, we have the crowd hyped with us. We're going out there. I'm saying, who wants to take a picture with Cuppy? And, I've got my cheerleader energy going, and everybody's like, yeah, and I'm having them scream, 1, 2, 3, handled. And so we're just going down the line, taking pictures with people. And then a producer walks by and was like, no more pictures, no more pictures. We're like, what? And we realized, the show's sponsored by Samsung. And so because of that, all these iPhones that people are taking pictures with can't be in the shots. And so they told us we can't do any more pictures with the mascot. And so at that point, we started to realize Cuppy was a hindrance to us being able to talk to people because now he's just there. Now we can't use him to our advantage to get people to be excited for us to come talk to them. Now he's kind of just standing there, and it's like, which side does he represent? He just represents Duncan. It's not like he had, an 8 ball painted on his side or anything. So that's why look, I'm like, Raj, we got to get you out of there. We need more people out here talking to these people, you know. And we made a pivot on the thing, but it was just funny to see, how they showed that because
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's what really messed us up with that is when they removed the ability for people to take pictures, is like here we are floating in water with no reason to have a mascot. Let's switch it up.
Yeah. Well, it was a thrilling episode, and like I told you before we started this interview, it's kind of like watching your favorite sport team. You have a dog in the fight. You really want them to win. These episodes now will be on 2 times a week, and so episode number 2, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. BT, what can you tell us of what to expect and what's going to be fun in store in this next episode?
Yeah, so the next episode is Southwest. So that's a cool big brand. Um, for me, the hard part about working with Southwest was I love Southwest, right? There's a hub in Raleigh, there's a hub in Dallas, and so it's great for some straight shots between here and North Carolina, especially whenever I want to take my family back to North Carolina because of the free check bag policy. So right before we go on this show, they kind of announce that they're taking away that check bag policy.
Yeah.
You remember? I don't know if you remember, but
Yeah.
the internet went up in a roar. And I was so pissed off at them as a brand in the sense that I'm like, why would you do that? Because where they are and relative to where I live here in Texas, they are like 25 to 30 minutes past the DFW airport where I live closest to. So I should just go to DFW to fly. But I would always go to Southwest because I felt connected to them with the baggage policy. And like, if I'm going to travel with my family, I don't have to worry about those extra fees. And so now it's just like, man, what is going on? Why would y'all get rid of something that's been a staple of who you guys are for so long? So I found myself having trouble being excited to, do a promotion for them because I had just felt like they had, stabbed me in the heart a little bit with taking away that baggage policy. But it's a lot of fun. The lady who is the representative for Southwest that's on the episode, she is so sweet. And you're gonna get to see a lot of cool things happen, because this is the episode where we come up with a plane wrap,
Wow.
wrap a plane, um, a little sneak peek for all my camel people. You may or may not get to see my toenails with paint on them. So I'll let you stay tuned for that to see why I have painted toenails on the episode.
Man, what a tease. As always, you're getting good at this TV thing, man. That's giving us reasons to tune in. Well, BT, thank you so much. We will be tuning in Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern, and we will talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good, Chris. Appreciate you.